Hello, class, and welcome to Unit 4 Live Review. We are also going to be talking, or maybe primarily talking about the core concept exam. So get your questions ready. If you have something that you want to let us know about, put it in the Piazza form. Just a reminder to take the core concept exam. We've extended it till Friday, but you're going to want to do the ProctorTrack onboarding. This is process that sets up your ProctorTrack account, and an actual human will go in and compare your face to your ID and things like that. So it does take a day or two after you go through the onboarding quiz for that account to be fully activated. And you're going to want that activated before you try taking the exam because it will give you a lot of trouble. If you don't have it activated, you're going to end up being on the phone with their help number and wasting time and getting yourself frustrated, and that's not something you want. It's not something we want, and it's not something ProctorTrack wants. So nobody wants that. So go ahead and do the onboarding before you take the exam. And if you want to get ready for the exam, there is the practice exam. So right there, go ahead and take the practice exam. The questions are in the same amount as the real exam. They're pulled from the same question banks. In all ways, it is identical to what you'll be doing on the real exam, except at the end you can see what you got right and what you got wrong. So it's definitely something you want to spend some time blasting through. What you don't want to do is go back and work on old homework assignments and maybe do worse than you did or lower your grade or something like that. That would be a bad thing to do, but a good thing to do would be to take the practice exam. So as I said, we're going to focus on that, but I guess we still have a few housekeeping details. One of the things I wanted to mention is that I am in the process of grading your Creative Project 1s. Most of them are great, and a lot of places where people have issues, it's simply because they didn't follow the directions carefully. So if we say we want 8 measures and you give us 2 measures, your 2 measures could be very good, but you're kind of putting us in a bind. We're going to have to take some points off there. And there's not much we can do about it. And if we say, please do not use a notation program, because a notation program will allow you to do all sorts of things which are incorrect, and we don't want that. So if you give us a notation program, we're going to go, please, we asked you not to do this. Or if your computer played it back, if you're recording sounds like bang, 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 we're going to go, okay, this is a computer payback. We can't give you points for that. So most of the issues people have had are simply not following the directions. They're not because they're not great musicians. They're not because they have no musical training. It's simply because they didn't follow the directions as they were outlined. And of course, if you have questions, please send us an email. We'll go, no, that looks good. That can use some improvement. Try doing it this way. We're more than happy to help. Professor McClellan is also here, patiently waiting. Do you have any housekeeping you want to discuss?
I would just echo that think of the creative project. You could almost say it's a little bit of a misnomer, because it's really a project. It's a following directions project. That's how you do well, and we want you to be creative, but that's kind of secondary to following directions. And the reason for that, it sounds kind of uninspiring, but the reason for that is that it levels the playing field for everyone. If it were truly a creative project all about creativity, and we were judging you on that, then some people would do very well and some people wouldn't do as well, because it's so subjective and we'd have no basis for judging it. But as it is, it's a very nuts and bolts, cut and dried. If you follow the directions and do everything that it says, you will do well on it. So yeah, I've seen a number of assignments with the notation program, and people naming the files, which is such a tiny detail that I understand why you might overlook it, but don't overlook it. It's really so easy to get it right if you just follow those directions. So I just repeated what you said, but I thought it was worth.
No, it is worth repeating. And so, we love getting a file with that isn't labeled with your name and there's no name inside the file.
Yeah.
And we have like 120 of these files, and we're like, who the hell is who the heck is this guy? I have no idea who did this.
My dad always said that when he was a kid, his favorite poet was anonymous. And so we're, you know how there's like poems that are anonymous, and he thought that was a real author of some kind. So,
anonymous.
So our least favorite person who submits assignments is anonymous. So put your name on it.
Which is why we take points off.
Yep.
Because we have so many of these to grade that if we don't take points off, then all of them will be labeled something different, and we'll never be able to figure out easily who has done what.
Yep.
Okay.
To add briefly, just that for my part, speaking for myself, it's a slow process. So I am working on them, but please be patient and forgive me for being slow. But I want to point out that I'm grading them in the order they were received. So if you submitted the day before, you're going to be one of the first people to get graded. If you submitted it at 11:55 on the night it was due, you're going to be waiting a while. So keep that in mind for Creative Project 2. If you're eager to get your grade really early, submit it early is a good way to do that. And I do that just because I think it's the fairest of the available options. I could do it in random order. That would be fair, I guess. But I feel like if you took the trouble to submit it early or very on time, then you should be one of the first people to get your grade back. And the time obviously is way slower on my side because, you know, it'll take me like a week to get through the people that turned it in between noon and 6 on the day it was due, and another week to get through the people from like 6 to 9 p.m. And then the people who turned it in the last couple hours are going to be at the very end of that. So, but that's by way of apology on my part that it will take me some time.
So just to jump in and move it along, we almost get no questions about Unit 4 intervals. It seems pretty self-explanatory. You count lines and spaces to know if it's a third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, and then you count semitones to know what the actual interval is. And we are happy to answer questions about Unit 4. But we have found over the last few years that people are much more interested in talking about the core concept exam. So if you have a question about intervals, please go ahead and type it in Piazza. We'll answer it right away. If you go back and watch this later, you can ask it then. But for our most part, we're going to talk about the core concepts exam. And these are kind of the critical items that you have to be able to take out of the course to really continue in music. How to make a scale, how to find the what scale degree is what each scale degree is called in every scale, how to read key signatures. These are kind of the basic things that with these tools you will be able to move into music, any other study of music theory, and do okay. But without them, you'll be stuck. So that's why we kind of consider it core. That's why we stick it in the middle of and in the middle instead of at the end. We figure that's a better way to approach it. But please, if you have questions about Unit 4, go ahead and ask them, and we'll address them as they come up. A few things about ProctorTrack. ProctorTrack is a software algorithm. It will watch you take the exam. So if you go and you surf other websites, we'll see it. If someone's standing behind you talking and giving you the answers, we'll see it. If you and 12 of your buddies are you know, all in the same room taking the exam and turning the monitor so we can't tell which ones of you is taking it, we'll catch you. Please just take the exam. Sorry. No, that was another time. But what the trick is we're not hypercritical. If your parent walks across the background, we don't care. If your cat walks in, if your roommate comes in and starts talking to you, if you need to go pee, if you want to write on a piece of paper, that's all cool. Just hold up the paper before you're done, show us the blank, and we're fine. But if you go outside to an outside website, if someone's taking the exam for you, if we can see your girlfriend's face just peeking in and whispering at you, we have to do something about it. We are obligated legally almost to deal with this. So as long as you're not doing anything wrong, you know, I'm not cheating. You're not. It's fine. But if you're going on outside websites, if you got someone who's, gotten a second keyboard and is looking over your shoulder, putting all the answers in, you're putting us all in a bad situation. So that's my little spiel about ProctorTrack. Do you want to walk through the exam? I'm actually seeing some things pop up on Piazza here, so I'm gonna take a look at those. And Dr. McClellan's gonna share his screen and talk us through the exam.
Cool. So yeah, and I would just add that somebody wrote me about saying that they were taking the exam and they got a FaceTime call on their computer. And I'm glad you wrote to me, and I appreciated it. But just don't worry, that kind of thing will not, like, we will see that, and the person said they hung up right away. That's obviously not cheating. You're not doing anything bad, so do not worry. We will see any kind of thing like that, and we will have the human judgment to know what's really going on.
Yeah, the computer doesn't make the call as to whether or not you've cheated. We make the call.
We make the call. That's an important
point. We make the call. The computer might say something weird happened here. Take a look.
Right.
But
computers are really, really dumb still, despite all the what you read about intelligence and stuff. But like, the computer knows something happened. It does not have the judgment to tell what happened. So that's up to us.
We are getting quite a few requests to look at assignment 25, though. So maybe if we want to take a look at that one before we push on to looking at the exam.
I'll just open it up over here. Assignment 22. Okay. Fourths and fifths. Ooh.
He said 25.
Oh, sorry. My bad. 25. Diatonic intervals. Okay. Oh, I wanted to mention one general thing before I forget. In every unit, we have this really cool thing called optional unit discussion. And this is a fun way to get extra credit. And we've noticed that not many people do these, and maybe they're not being noticed, or maybe you're too busy, but it's a pretty fun and easy way to get those extra credit points. So don't forget about them. That's my whole spiel on that. All right, here's 25. Okay, so diatonic intervals. Yeah, so this is, this course is cumulative, and everything that you learned in earlier units kind of starts to build in and become relevant. So diatonic means, the diatonic collection of pitches that make up a scale or a key but that can occur in sort of any order. And then you learned about key signatures, and all of that sets the frame or the condition or the context for an interval. And so we want you to be able to work with intervals within a key and understand how they work. So that's kind of what's going on here. So you need to know the key signature. You need to know all about the major and minor, relative major and minor. That's why it says don't forget to check the key signature. And then, so you just need to be able to work with intervals within that. So one of my favorite strategies for intervals that I mention to people a lot is pretend there were no accidentals to start with, and it's just white keys on the piano. So it's two notes, no accidentals at all, which means they're both white keys on the piano. And what would the interval be in that situation? And then once you're solid on that, apply the accidentals that are there, and then say to yourself, what alterations and changes are being made by the accidentals, and therefore what is the actual interval? So just as an example of that, this first one, you have to do that. There are two factors. So let's strip out all the intervals, just all the accidentals in our minds. A to C, A natural to C natural. If you go to the piano, you'll see that's a minor third. But now let's apply all of the accidentals that are relevant here. The most obvious one is the A sharp, but in the key signature, there's also a C sharp. So now we have A sharp to C sharp, And because the same accidental is being applied to both, the interval actually remains the same. It's moved up 1/2 step, but it's still a minor third. So that's a long way of describing that. But for me, that's like the most sort of fail-safe way, is if you build it up, because it's easy to get confused if you're trying to consider the accidentals at the same time that you're working out the basic generic interval numbers. Let's do this one, the next one too, just quickly. If you stripped out all the possible accidentals, it would be D to C, and you just need to count the generic interval first. It's a non-zero system, so D is 1, E to F, blah, blah, blah. You get up to a 7th. And D to C would be a minor 7th. But because of the key signature, there's a C sharp, which makes it a major 7th. So that's my process there. Moving on. So that should serve you in good stead. Don't forget not only don't forget to check the key signature, but also don't forget to check the clef. You could have a base clef, and that, that would determine things. So I think, let's see, I think that's the whole business with this one. Just seeing if there's another example that might be instructive. Maybe that's enough on that one. If you want to have follow-up questions, you can hit us up. Should I jump to the exam, or?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so why don't I go through the practice exam, because it's the same question bank. And we sort of mentioned this before, but to reiterate, we go to great lengths to make this course something that you can succeed in. And one of the ways we do that is by basically giving you the exam before you take the exam. So that's also another reason not to cheat, because we're basically giving you the best possible study guide that an exam could have, which is, so in a lot of the assignments, just to remind people in case you're not thinking about it, the questions that you see, you might see 10 questions or 20 questions or something, but in most cases, those 10 or 20 are drawn from like 50 or 100 questions in a bank, and the computer Canvas learning management system draws them at random to give you your special 10 questions. And that's really helpful to reduce cheating and so on. But what we've done, and it also allows us to do this with the exam. So both the practice exam and the real exam have the same question bank of I think there's hundreds of questions in there. And then when you take the practice exam, it draws at random some of the questions. And then when you take the real exam, it draws at random some questions. So you're not going to get the same exact questions, because that would be taking the whole thing a little too far. But it's about as close to that as it could get. You're going to get the same exact types of questions. So if you can do the practice exam and succeed on it, you're going to definitely do great on the real exam. So it's so important to take the practice exam, because it will give you a sense. If you take it and you're not doing well, then you know exactly how you're going to do on the real exam, and you know to go and study. So long spiel, but it just can't reinforce enough how important it is to take the practice exam. Even if you think you know this stuff cold, just run through it, and if you are acing everything on the practice exam, then great. Then you can go and have a beer if you're over 21, and and come back and do the exam. But if you have even the slightest issues or things that you're not sure of, then keep studying. So let's see here. And I should have also highlighted, as Dr. Wilcox said earlier, this is really drawn from these assignments, 4, 5, 11, and 20, which you've basically all done by this point. And instead of going back and redoing them and risking your grade changing, do the practice exam. And so let's just quickly go through. This is kind of going to feel like a review for many of you. What is this pitch? Really core, basic, literally core material. Reading pitches. Remember what the treble clef is. The second line is G, count up. Using the musical alphabet, add the flat, and you get D flat. And then, of course, always format your answers very carefully according to the instructions. So pitch reading, that should be something that you are pretty comfortable with by now, but you may need a little refresher, no problem. Study up on it. Similarly, keyboard identification. You need to know where on the staff this middle C green note is. And it so happens that it's the first ledger line below treble. So this is an A flat. So you start with 40, B natural is 39, B flat is 38, 37, and then your A flat is right there and it's 36. Boom. Gets harder when it's further away from middle C. So let's find a nasty low or high note. That one's kind of nasty in its own way because it's in the bass clef, but kind of still kind of high. So that's actually a G sharp above middle C, which would be 45, 6, 7, 8, 48. Get the idea there. Beat division. You got to know your meter types solidly. And every meter type has 2 words, simple or compound, and then duple, triple, or quadruple. And as long as you know what those mean, you should be good. The first word refers to the way that beats divide up, and the second word refers to the number of beats in a measure. So it's I guess on a surface level, it's kind of a bit of a switcheroo because we ask it in the opposite order. How many beats refers to the second word in the name, whereas how they divide up refers to the first word in the name. But as long as you're on top of that, you should be good. So simple duple meter has duple means 2 beats, rule out all the 3s and 4s. Simple means 2 divisions. So boom, there it is. That goes on for a while. Make sure you have some coffee or Pepsi on hand during the exam. Compound meter, if the beat was a quarter, dotted quarter, beat would divide evenly into which of the following. This is about the kind of definition of compound and the fact that 1 beat is by definition divisible into 3 parts, equal parts. And so that would be the 3/8 notes there. It gets a little trickier when you have all these little 30 seconds and whatnot, but basically this is all pretty straightforward. Which of the following is a compound division of a half note? There you need the tuplet thingies. You would normally, with a simple division, would be 2 quarter notes, but it says compound, which means 3, so you need 3 quarter notes in a triplet. And that goes on for a while. And then key signatures. And I remember we did this in another live session where we walked through the steps here, and I'll just briefly do that. So this requires a number of steps to get to the answer. And if you follow them methodically, you will do great. You start out with the information you're given, major key signature and given note. So from the key signature, what you need is to determine the tonic of the key. And that is dependent on both the number of sharps or flats and also whether it's major or minor. So 4 flats could mean A flat major or F minor. And so you're given which it is. It's A flat major, but you need to know that, obviously. That tells you the tonic is the note A flat. And now you can start to count notes to get to the given pitch. So I would always start low. And this is where scratch paper could come in handy, because you could write this out for yourself and then write in the A flat down here and then write in the notes in between that belong to the scale. And if you did that, you get A flat is tonic, B flat is supertonic, C is mediant, or 1, 2, 3 in scale degrees, and D flat is the 4th scale degree, which is the subdominant. Boom. So that as long as you can do all those steps, you will do great on this. And then you get into the harmonic minor, and so some of them get a little thorny with this horrible number of flats, and who knows what that note is. And as long as you follow the steps really methodically, you will do great. Let's briefly do, figure out the tonic of this one. Minor, key signature, 5 sharps. The way I do that is I always know 5 sharps is B major. Walk down 3 notes, B, A sharp, G sharp, which is also the 6th scale degree going the other direction. So that's the relative minor of B major. Therefore, this is the key signature for that relative minor, and the tonic is G sharp. And then walk up a ways, and this is the 6th, from imagine your G sharp down here. Walk up, this is the 6th scale degree. It's being raised to the major version of itself, and therefore it is the mediant. Actually, in that case, it doesn't matter that it's being raised, but it's the mediant. Or no, sorry. I need another coffee. It's the submediant. I'm fired. Anyway, I think that covers it. Double sharp is pretty nasty. So again, I have 60 questions. Your 60 questions are going to be different, but they're going to be the same format, same process every time. And if you go through your 60 questions on the practice exam, you're going to ace the real exam. Any other topics to cover?
I have been noticing a few questions on Piazza. Just a fair warning, I've been sick for several weeks, and so I've been answering emails, but Dr. McClellan's been kind of helping out with Piazza. So I'm sorry if I didn't mention this sooner, but it is something that I think is important, that I see, that we've talked about early in the semester, but we're still seeing people reporting it. And here it is. Let me see if I can make this any bigger. We have people who have done a homework assignment, and they're confused because they felt like they're getting the answer right, but it's being marked wrong. So here's the way it works. On a number of these assignments, we have drop downs so that you can select one of multiple options. And we put this in a table. The original question, each one of these was a drop down from a 1 to 7, and we put it in a table and we wrote you chose. And what happens when you actually get the assignment back is every time there was a drop down, it tells you what the final state of that drop down is. So for number A, this person put 7, and for number B, this person put 2, and for number C, this person put 5. That's what they chose. And then here, it's being reiterated. They chose 7, 2, and 5. Now, on some of these homework assignments, and in Unit 4, it's 1, we don't tell you what the correct answer is because we don't have hundreds and hundreds of questions in question banks. We only have a couple, and we don't want to pass out all the answers. And we tell you that at the beginning of the homework assignment. So people think they see what they chose on the drop down here, and they see answer 1, 7. They think, well, I got it right. But that could very easily just be wrong. You could just have missed it. So as with homework assignment 13, so with the homework assignments in Unit 4, we don't give you the right answer. So if you did an assignment and you only got half credit or partial credit on one of the questions, it could very well be that you just got the question wrong, that you just got the answer wrong. So if you're having that confusion, check in with us. We're doing our best to create large enough question pools that we can do away with this. And we've done that for most of the course, but for certain areas, we still don't give you the correct answer because we don't have a ton of surplus questions. But remember that if you have a drop-down, it's going to show you what the final state of that drop-down is, and then essentially repeat your answers back to you on top of those selected options in the drop-down. I'm not entirely sure if that made sense.
Made sense to me. It's
a pain in the rear.
The short to summarize, if you see those kinds of questions and it's showing it that it's still wrong, it's probably because you answered them wrong. So the first thing to do is to go back and check your answers.
Yeah. I like the infinity shot that you're sharing your screen with me on it, and then
I know
I'm on it. You just need to stop sharing your screen, but I do like the sweet infinity shot.
I want to share something else soon.
Why don't you just stop sharing and then you're going to share something else?
Well, I don't know if there's anything else I need to share. I will stop sharing now, and then it's pretty easy to reshare, I suppose.
That's true. That's true. So, wait, we've gotten a couple more questions. Let me see what we got here. The exam has been shown. No, we only extended the exam. But yes, I see it did get announced as Unit 4. So I will go back and change that so that you can go back in through Unit 4.
Ooh, I'm sorry. That was my mistake.
That was you. You screwed it all up.
Sorry. I overpromised.
Yeah, you overpromised. I didn't want to go back in and change all those due dates. There's lots of them, and I have to do it like in 6 sections. But it's fine.
Well, maybe we could do it by request only.
I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so that's the exam answer for Adele. I'll go and do that now, so that will be extended. And for Gina, yes, you are allowed to use a writing utensil and a blank piece of paper. That's totally cool. How many questions? It'll be exactly the same as the practice exam. I mean, identical, the same number of types of questions from each area. So if you do the practice exam, you'll get other randomly chosen questions, but they'll all be of the same sort. And same number, same grouping, same percentages. So hopefully, but I'm glad that was pointed out to us. Anything else you wanna hit?
Don't think so. Keep an eye on the announcements. Obviously, if you're ever in doubt, double check there. Even though they can be error prone, as I just demonstrated.
And if this is you, I've spent an hour on this and I just can't get it. Why? Just spend 15 minutes. If you have a legitimate question, drop a screenshot, send it to us. We'll answer the question. That's much better. We don't want you getting frustrated. We're here to help. So please, if you have a question, send it along.
Yeah, don't ever hesitate.
Yes, Gina is asking the same thing. The extension was only intended for the exam, but since it was announced as the entire unit, I'm going to go ahead and make the entire unit extended, and I'll do that once we're done with this meeting tonight. I'll go back in and change all the due dates to be Friday.
That was me being dumb.
No, it's just got overexcited.
Yeah, it was.
Gotta rein you in.
That's right. Yeah, and what was I going to say? I was going to say if we are ever slow to respond on Piazza or whatever, don't be shy about like bugging us and being like, hey, you didn't respond. Like we both have other full-time jobs and we love doing this, but we're very distracted in our lives, and so we do
our very best.
We do our best, but the point is that we actually appreciate it if you bug us. We don't feel offended or something. Like we actually were like, oh, thank you for reminding me because I was going to do that.
And there are a lot of you. Not that each one of you aren't special. And some of you I recognize the names for, and some of them I don't. And it's nothing personal. So please just always remind us who you are, what section you're in. Send us a screenshot of what the issue you're having is. And we'll do our best to be there as quickly as possible. And one of the reasons we do Piazza is that when one of us is sick, the other can answer questions, or if there's like an avalanche of issues, we can try to address those systemically across all 6 sections. So, hopefully you feel like you're being supported in this. And if you have continued questions, please send them along. But for now, I think we're done, don't you? Is there anything else you want to?
Nope, I'll probably think of something.
What was that word I was thinking of that? I don't know. Any other idea you wanted to shoot out there?
I think I'm good.
Oh, good. I'm noticing the towel rack behind you still.
Oh yeah, I'm in my bathroom, everybody.
He's a little baby and he lives in New York.
I live in a tiny New York apartment and I have a 2-year-old.
Yeah, so, and I've got these weird things between my.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, but they're like between 2 rooms and a house. What I mean.
Oh, weird.
It's like the other. It's just another room. I don't know. I don't get it. But I have a blue couch. What can I say?
Just rip those out to get a little more air and light going.
Yeah. I think we're not entertaining anyone but ourselves at this point. So good night, students.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Keep up the good work. All right.
Yep.